Welcome back to another Hearts of Iron video. I was going to say Hearts of Iron 4, but this is just a dev diary. So I want to go and apologize about not getting these out more often. This was actually posted back in late August, but very similar to child support payments, Hearts of Iron dev diaries are kind of a tricky thing. If you get behind on just one, it seems as though you can never catch back up again, no matter what you do. So today, after several requests, I've decided it is time to get back into doing these dev diaries. So this is the first one. It was posted back August 28th, and we're going to be catching up. So expect a few videos popping out in the next couple days. Alright, now here is what this dev diary is covering, and is literally just a rework to the entire French focus tree. So, as we can see here, this is an industrial side. Then if we go over, this is obviously a rearmament kind of side with like bonuses to doctrines, military stuff. Then we have over here something to do with more being able to go, I guess, all in all, it's going to be different kind of politics, more specifically like communist, nationalist, things like that. And down here, it actually does go pretty communist. So I'm going to assume this side is mostly, if not all, completely communist. Then over here, we can go intervention in Spain. Now, here's something interesting. Apparently, you can do intervention in Spain so you can have something done in the Civil War, regardless of whatever politics you have. So that over there is the communist. This one over here, I'm going to take a wild guess and say, since it says banned communism and it's got a skull on there, it's either going to be something to do with democracy or monarchism. More than likely, I would assume this is going to go democracy because you can review foreign policy, which leads down to this stuff down here, which is very similar to the old democratic focus tree. Then this side over here is going to be nationalist because it has stuff in there like bring home Quebec, expand to the Suez, dominate the Middle East, stuff like that. But over here, I'm pretty sure this is going to be something to do with monarchism. Now, they actually mention that later down in the dev diary that they are going to do some stuff related to monarchism. Then over here, the further right we go, we have a Air Force kind of doctrine, or Air Force focuses along with naval focuses. Now, when we get back to the dev diary, it's going to be really important. But basically, the more important thing that I'm concerned with any of this that's going to be really interesting, I think over here it's going to be two options. You're either going to get bonuses to defense, but penalties to offense whenever you're going to do stuff like this, or you can do over here with aggressive, and it's going to be something very similar. Or more than likely, it's probably going to be you're going to have to take this decision, which is going to be defensive, like bonuses to forts and defense, or you can take this one over here, which is going to give bonuses to, I would assume, infantry weapons, followed by artillery, followed by tanks, and then probably a special kind of unlock for a tank or something like that, which leads to army reform. Then over here, this is probably going to be motorized bonuses along with a tank bonus down here, and then this one over here is going to be air bonuses, which I can pretty much guarantee. So that is the focus tree pretty much in the dev diary. So down here, they talk about the industrial branch is actually going to be something very interesting. Now, the idea behind the industrial branch, which I'm going to show you guys again, basically what you can do is kind of hold off on actually doing these, and the later you hold off, the better it will be, because they actually mention, again, where is it? Here we go. So these focuses up here, like invest in metropolitan France, Algerian, stuff like that. The focuses are going to give you building slots in a number of states in the area, with later focuses adding factories into each of the states previously invested in. That means the longer you wait in pulling the trigger on the colonial, civilian, military industry focuses, the bigger the payoff, but it comes later in the game. If you take all of the investment focuses, you can get a whopping 18 civilian factories and 14 military factories in just 3 focuses, which will be very close to the German one, I would assume, somewhere in that ballpark, because the German civilian industry gives only, like, I think 12 in total through the Hermann Göring stuff, so that'll be pretty close, but you won't be able to get this until very late game, so that'll help if you're going to probably stay democratic, more than likely. But down here, they actually mention again, in the political sphere, we decided not to introduce a fully new gameplay mechanic for France when we already had a perfectly functioning stability and war support system that works very well in representing international politics of the Third Republic. To put it simply, you will have to tread a narrow line between raising your stability by lowering your war support and raising your war support by lowering your stability. Now, the reason I wanted to say that is because currently in the game, there are several focuses that France can take along with decisions that will really increase both. So it looks like you're going to be stuck in a situation where you have to decide Do I want low stability and risk going into a civil war along with not strikes, but a lot of different stuff like maybe draft dodging? Or do I want to increase my war support, stability, but lower war support and get penalties to stuff like mobilization speeds, get as many men, stuff like that. And it even mentions here, should your stability drop below 25% too long, a civil war breaks out. To make matters worse, and hopefully, I'm going to mention something here really awesome sounding with this 25% for too long thing. A civil war breaks out. To make matters worse, you have to contend with far right and far left groups taking to the streets in anger if you make decisions that they disagree with, potentially lowering your stability even further. You can ban these groups at a stability penalty depending on the relative popularity, which might be difficult to recover from. So here's why I'm kind of excited about this. Currently in the game, if you drop under 25%, there's really no major penalties. You'll start getting events to fire off, like there's strikes because of your war economy law, which usually relate to war support, or you're having issues with manpower, draft dodging, things along those lines. But you can be at 0% stability and keep taking decisions that will just literally just kind of keep pushing it down the line. Now, here's why I'm interested. Could it be possible when they actually add this, it's not going to be exclusively for France, but instead, could this be something applied to all nations, which hopefully, I hope this will be added to all nations, but you never really know, and it might be exclusive to France because it might fire events off to actually fire the civil war, but fingers crossed this will actually be applied to all nations if you can get them below 25%, which will give a reason to actually start strategic bombing longer periods of time to get their stability much lower. To make matters worse, I just read that part. The threat of civil war is removed when you go to war with another country. So that's interesting. That means possibly you might not get civil war whenever you decide to deny Rhineland to the Germans. Anyway, if you can get stability above 70% is what is required to actually do that. So it's kind of iffy if that's going to work or not. But in historical games, never know. But it returns to stability. If the stability drops below 50% without political action being taken to remove the cause again. So, basically, then this part here just talks about manpower losses and things like that. Simply increasing recruitment laws will not save you, since we're now pulling workers away from the worker base, causing severe production penalties. You will have different ways of dealing with this issue, but expanding the citizenship and encouraging immigration might not be welcomed by everyone. The time scale of the game means you can't make up a shortfall through family policies. Now, it's actually a really interesting idea because they do mention in here somewhere. Where was this? I actually read kind of a little bit too low. Here it is. So basically, there are different bonuses or national spirits applied now. This is represented by national spirit reducing your recruitable population factor. Simply increasing your recruitment laws won't save you, since you're now pulling workers away from the workbenches. Now, this is kind of interesting to me. It's possible, and I think they do mention something about it down here, that maybe in the future we might start seeing things related to the idea of you can go to extensive, it'll be kind of like total mobilization, but in lower, levels. Like you can go to extensive conscription, but you might take a 5% hit to consumer goods, or you might have lower construction penalties or bonuses and stuff like that, which actually might be pretty interesting. So we'll see. But anyway, in better news, France will have a slightly larger or bigger industrial base to play with, but no balance out to these factors. The new diplomacy branch will also allow you to not just invite countries to the Little Entente, but also invest in them and grant them some military factories. Now that sounds really interesting to me, but also it's probably going to change the way multiplayer games are played, because in historical games, people do, at least in the multiplayer side of things, they'll usually go down the French tree and decide to just simply just take a little on time and just after 6 months kick Czechoslovakia out of the faction, and that way they get a stability bonus. So this might actually take the stability bonus away, or it might give a bigger stability bonus, but you might not be able to kick out people. Anyway, later you can invite Britain and the Commonwealth to join your faction, so I don't know if that's going to be exactly the Allies or it's going to be something different, but that'll be interesting. It also allows you to exchange guarantees with the Soviets, or try to form a common faction with Italy. The so-called Stresa-Front was already pretty much over and done in 1936 due to differences in opinion between Britain, France, and Italy about the Italian-Ethiopian border. Now, To revive the alliance, you have to make concessions to hand over some territory to Italy. If you can convince Britain to back you, it will likely make Italy join you. So that's going to be really interesting. Now, here they are talking about all ideologies can, in fact, join the Civil War, like I mentioned earlier through the focus tree. Should you, for reasons past in your understanding, not want to experience the historically accurate French experience, we have greatly deepened the alt history focus trees, starting with the formation of the Popular Front under Leon Blum. I think no relation. I assume that's the person. I don't know who it is right in this dev diary. But you can choose to invite communists to the government instead of simply having them tolerate you. From there, you can go to implement more communist agenda, such as legal equality for women, economic centralization, and propaganda to prepare the population for the inevitable revolution. We are talking about France. So it's interesting that there's obviously going to be a communist kind of thing you can fire off here. But there's also, if we look in here, let's see, I believe... Okay, so obviously you can do fascism, communism, and I think in here somewhere, and I could be wrong about this, but really, here it is. Yeah, so I would assume this one is going to be the monarchist kind of return kind of deal where you have a king and everything. But they do mention a little bit up here about more of it, yeah. So under Francois Le Richon or something like that, has little entente with has you form a Latin entente with Spain, Portugal, and Italy to later split up Africa into zones of control, with France taking most of the west, Italy taking the east of the continent, with de la Rochelle or something like that, representing a more independent version of an authoritarian France. So, a little bit interesting. After agreeing to split the Low Countries to you and join the Axis, you can put some pressure on Belgium. You can either Anschluss Wallona, I believe it is, or force the entirety of Belgium to become your puppet. Once this is accomplished, you remind them that puppets don't get to have their colonial territories right next to their masters. Beyond this, you mostly tag along with German strategy by opening up a second front in Northern Africa. Now, this is the one I'm more excited for with France. I'm not really a France player, but this one is definitely probably one of the most exciting parts. Finally, there are the monarchists. French monarchism at the time was closely related to the political far right, being anti-republican made by the idea of the monarchy, a logical rallying point. So that makes sense that the spin-off from the reactionary branch, the idea behind this branch is a continued political turmoil in the republic, represented by the continuously low stability you have to be below 35% to take the first focus. So that's going to be real interesting that you're going to have to kind of tread the line of lowering your stability by different kind of measures to become monarchist, which I assume is going to later on. Let's see. Has no disillusion. People that the time has come to return to the kind of stable leadership a monarch provides. As such, you don't immediately select a king. You first create the groundwork for return to the monarchy by repealing the law of exile. So that's a bit interesting. Now, really, this is the final part of the dev diary. The Orleanist candidate, I believe. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure it's just like monarchy stuff. As such, you will focus heavily on social welfare and containing fascism. Ironically, one of the first acts is to inform the reactionary Action Francisi, something like that they have served their purpose and will now no longer be needed. On the other hand, the Bonapartist candidate has an ambitious program of reshuffling the borders of Europe and restore the family name. So we might get a Bonaparte here. So maybe someone in Napoleon's family or something like that. That'd be actually kind of interesting. In the middle between the two are Legitimist, which is a faction that can split the Orleanist in 1830s. In which maintains the Orleanist heir is not. In fact, the legitimate pretender to the throne through a number of dynastic, I think they mean dynamic events, which is really just like you get to kind of choose things. Like, for example, the United States every 4 years, and most of the democracies in the game actually have events fire off every 4 years about, hey, who do you want to be president? I think that's more what they're talking about in here with dynamic events. The legitimate pretender to the throne of France, according to legitimate, is not other than the previously deposed King of Spain. As such, the obvious goal is to restore both his crowns to him and potentially unite the two realms of France and Spain into a double monarchy, because that works so well for Austria-Hungary and Denmark and Norway. Then finally, since the current French focus tree already has some short alternate ideology branches, these old branches will still be present if you do not have the DLC. So that's kind of sad and unfortunate, which means obviously, what I think they're saying here is obviously if you want to get more of a focus tree, you'll need to buy the DLC similar to the US one, but some of these events will obviously be added without having to have a DLC, kind of like the US thing, where you don't have to have Man the Guns to actually get a large part of the focus tree. However, if you do have Man the Guns, then you can take several different paths. So I would assume probably the democracy path, along with maybe the fascism path would be options, but the communist, stuff like over here is probably more than likely the stuff you're not going to be able to get. Anyway, then they changed the design company, so you have an armor car designer, infantry tank designer, stuff like that. So anyway, guys, this is all stuff that's coming out with 1.8, and next up, they're talking about resistance and occupation. Now, because I've already pretty much gotten behind, I'm going to try to catch up, so expect a lot of dev diaries. Really, I think there's 4 that are going to be coming out over the next couple days, probably 2 a day or something like that until I'm caught up. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know down below, are you guys excited for the France thing? Personally, I would have preferred more to see a Spain kind of rework, and I think they did talk about the Spain thing. I would prefer to see a Soviet rework along with a Spain rework, but still, France is kind of important in the game, obviously, so go down below and let me know what you guys think. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.